Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Top 5 Wednesday. The topic for this week is underrated books. So I've picked 5 books which I just feel don't really get all the love that they deserve in my opinion. So the first underrated book is My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Warga. This is a YA contemporary that came out a few years ago now and I just don't really see it all that much on BookTube. I read it recently for the a year-a-thon, readathon that I did right at the beginning of January. Really loved it. Some very honest and brutal but beautiful and very true depictions of what depression and being suicidal is like. So if you do like your YA contemporaries that deal with very heavy dark mental health issues and things like that, really recommend it because I think it's one of the most honest accounts of what depression and feeling that way is like. So yeah, definitely pick it up. Another book that I feel is quite underrated is My Sister Lives on the Mantelpiece by Annabelle Pitcher, but I actually think that Annabelle Pitcher is a pretty underrated writer. I have read her other book, Catch Up Clouds, as well, which I also don't really see around that much on BookTube channels and on book blogs and things like that. She's a really lovely writer. This one in particular really made me cry when I read it a few years ago. This one is about a little boy who lost his sister and they keep her ashes in a jar on the mantelpiece. So he's obviously dealing with all of that. His family are dealing with all of that. The part that made me cry was not actually the bit that I think was supposed to make me cry, but it just goes to show what an amazing writer she is, that I'm crying at bits that I probably shouldn't actually be crying at. So yeah, definitely give Annabelle Pitcher a go if you do like your emotional middle grade / YA books. Another underrated book, and this is a horror book, and I do read a lot of horror, so when I find a good horror, because there's actually not that many great supernatural horror out there, I don't think, but certainly one great supernatural horror book is Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. Joe Hill is actually Stephen King's son, and I really love his writing, almost as much as his father's writing, I think, but Heart-Shaped Box is definitely my favourite. This is about a guy who was a rock star. He's retired now, but he's got a very strong interest in the macabre and everything to do with the dark side and things like that, and he sees a ghost for sale and he can't resist it. He buys it, and what shows up at his house is this heart-shaped box with a suit, a man's suit in it, and a note saying that the spirit is attached to this suit, and pretty much drama and terrifying things happen from there on in. Really recommend Joe Hill and particularly Heart-Shaped Box if you are looking for a genuinely scary horror book. Another underrated book is The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. This is a kind of crime thriller-esque type book. It came out last year or the year before. I think it came out last year actually, and I did read it, absolutely loved it. I actually read her first book, In a Dark Wood, before I read this one. Love that one as well. It's a kind of similar theme. She writes kind of crime thriller, but not really kind of like hard hitting. They're very more kind of mysterious rather than kind of brutal crime, murder mystery type things. But this is about a woman who is a travel journalist, and she is going on the maiden voyage of this cruise ship, and she sees a woman being thrown over the side of the ship. And when she goes to investigate, there's no record of anyone being in that room. No one knows anything about it. No one knows anything about this woman that she is adamant that she saw being thrown over the side. And it's a great little mystery. You're guessing the whole way through. Ruth Ware is a great writer for that kind of thing. I really hope she actually brings out another one because I have loved both of her books. And the last underrated book is another horror that I really enjoyed, and I read it quite a few years ago now, and that is Ghost Story by Peter Straub. I do have a couple of other Peter Straub books. I know Stephen King raves about him all the time, and this is actually the only one that I have read of his, and it's about these 5 old men who have been friends all of their lives, and they get together and they just kind of reminisce about the past and things like that. They tell ghost stories, and basically it transpires that there is a dark, mysterious murder case in their past with one of them and a woman that used to be in their lives, and they kind of think that she has come back to haunt them. It's very scary. I remember I was probably about 16, 17 when I read it, so it was literally years ago I read it, but it still kind of sticks in my mind as a great horror book. So yeah, definitely give this a go, again, if you are looking for some genuinely good horror. And that is it for this week's Top 5 Wednesday. What are some underrated books that you think everyone should read? I'd really love to know. I will leave all of my social media in the description down below. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you very soon for another video. Bye bye.